camping for the first time can definitely feel a little overwhelming, especially when it comes to gear. And so what we're going to talk about today is the gear that you actually need to get out there, get in the woods, and be comfortable. We're going to talk about tents and structure setups. We're going to talk about some cooking solutions that we use every single time we go camping. And we're going to talk about sleeping. My name is Justin, and I'm the founder of one of the fastest growing outdoor communities on Skool. I've also been camping for many years, and my goal today is to share those experiences with you so you can skip the trial and error, not waste any money, and you can go straight to the adventure. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so let's start with tents. The first thing that you got to know is that all the stuff that we're covering is going to depend on your use case scenario. If you're backpacking, if you're car camping, if you have a big RV, every setup's a little bit different. So typically the type of camping that I like to do is car camping, where we pack up our SUV, we go out into the woods, and we're not really carrying our gear on our backs. So the total weight doesn't really matter as much. But what does matter is obviously like space. We don't have a ton of space in our Land Cruiser for a ton of stuff. So this is some things that I've used over the years. This is a instant cabin style tent, and so it pops up pretty easily. One thing that I like about the instant cabin tents is you can stand all the way up when you're changing clothes, and it sets up pretty easily. The cons here would be the size and the weight. So this thing is definitely pretty stout, pretty heavy, but if you're car camping, really doesn't matter quite as much. On the smaller side of tents, you could get something that's tiny, small like this, packs up really nice, and they have ultra lightweight tents if you're transversing the Appalachian Trail or something like that. But the benefits of these, I would say they're a little bit on the cheaper price point. They're obviously lighter and easier to pack, but you don't really get as much room there as you would with a instant cabin style tent. And then a third option that you might consider that I've definitely used before is a hammock setup. Now, unless you already have some of this stuff, it actually can be more expensive and not really make a whole lot of sense unless you're in a special scenario, right? So what I have is the hammock and the straps. I also have a bug net. I also have a rain fly that goes over the top of the hammock. So we're covered from bugs, we're covered from rain, we're sleeping good. The thing that I really like about the Eno is if it is hot outside, because it's pretty much in the open air, you get a lot more breeze, you get a lot more airflow with that. So if I'm doing any type of camping in warmer weather, if it's above say 70, 75 degrees at night, I'm going to want to sleep more comfortably, and the way to do that is in a hammock. So those are three different ideas. They also have some, one thing that I'm looking into is the Gazelle tents. They're kind of like an instant cabin style. They do pop out a little bit faster, and they have a little bit more space than this one. The only con there is they are a good bit bigger because they're already kind of pre-assembled a little bit. So you can kind of look at those as well. I've tried the rooftop tents, and I like the rooftop tent from a security standpoint. It makes you feel safe. But if you're a beginner camper, you're probably not even looking at rooftop tents. You probably don't need a rooftop tent. I would just start with one of these three options to kind of get you started, see what you like, see what you don't like. And you don't need a whole lot. You could take a tarp in the woods, drape it over a tree branch, and then you got your shelter for the night. So if you want to go real primitive, that's an option as well. All right, so let's talk about sleeping. And to be quite frank with you, you're probably not going to sleep great while you're camping, no matter what we do. A reason I think is because, number one, you're not in your normal bed, you're not in your normal bedroom, you're someplace new, and so psychologically your body's going to sleep a little bit lighter as almost like a protection type of method for you not to be in a deep sleep if something happens, basically is what happens. So I'm going to tell you what we use to sleep decently whenever we camp, okay? Now, I know there's probably going to be some people in the comments that they sleep amazing and whenever they go camping, and they sleep super deep and everything, and those people are probably very sleep deprived, so their body has to sleep no matter where they're at, right? This is typically what we use. A couple different options here. This is a Nemo sleeping pad. I have a sleeping bag as well. Not a sleeping pad, a sleeping bag. This Nemo one is one that we got for my wife whenever I was talking her into starting camping with me. And it's got down filled. You can do synthetic or you can get down. Down is more plush, but it's a little bit more expensive. What I would say is we do not need this. And a lot of times we don't even use this. Using a mummy sleeping bag or even a normal sleeping bag, there's not a ton of advantages if you sleep. The only time you really need that is if you're sleeping in really cold weather, and you need to conserve as much body heat as possible, right? Other than that, if you're not sleeping where it's really, really cold, what I would recommend is instead of this, we use a camping quilt like this. And it kind of acts as a comforter. It's got some air in it, and so it keeps us insulated, but it doesn't squish us, it doesn't constrict us, it just goes over the top of us. So that is really helpful, this quilt. And if we are going to be camping where it's cold, what we actually use is an electric blanket. And we don't put the electric blanket over us. This is a pro tip, put the electric blanket under you. Especially if you're using like an air mattress or even an air sleeping pad, a lot of your heat is lost underneath you because all of that air just gets cold throughout the night. So if you put the electric blanket under you, it kind of acts as a barrier between you and the air mattress. Heat rises as well, and so all of that heat is reflected down. It lifts up from the electric blanket and then it reflects back down using the quilt. So that's kind of the setup that we really like. It's the most comfortable in the most different types of temperatures. If we were camping when it's 0 degrees or, I would say even sub-freezing temperatures, we might need a mummy bag, but we don't usually camp when it's that cold. Talking about underneath, like different types of sleeping bags and things like that, or pads, I would say we got a couple different options here. This is like a $20 Walmart air mattress. We use this more than we use these other two, for sure. It works. It doesn't last super long time. This is probably our 3rd or 4th air mattress we've gone through just because they pop, and then you can try and find the hole. Sometimes you can find it, sometimes you can't, but air mattress definitely will work if you're a beginner camper. We still use this a lot of the time. As far as other sleeping pad options, this is a small, like individual sleeping pad I got for backpacking. Obviously you can tell it's a lot smaller than this. This you can inflate with the pump, but you really can just inflate it with your mouth. It's really easy. This is not super comfortable, but it's better than sleeping on the ground. It's portable. That's the big pro there. This is a big Agnes, 20 by 72, so 72 inches tall, 20 inches wide, deluxe, insulated. This is an Exped Mega Mat. I've got this several months ago off Facebook Marketplace. I've got to use it several times. I would say it's definitely a big upgrade over this. And I think the big reason it's an upgrade is because of the dimensions. It's a good bit wider, it's a good bit longer, and it's a good bit thicker. So this is probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches once it's blown up. This is closer to like 3.5, 4 inches. So you get an extra like 2 inches of depth there. this is all right. I think there's better sleeping pads on the market for a smaller price that you would pay. I tried the Hest sleeping pads at REI, and I think those are the best ones on the market, and they come in at a price point lower than the Exped mattresses. And the con there is just the size. They're a little bit bulkier than this, but if you could fit this in your car, you can fit a Hest sleeping pad mattress in your car as well. So it rolls up very similar to this, and it works. I think that if I was going the most comfortable route, I would say go with the Hest. And if you're just starting out, $20 air mattress works great. We still use it pretty much every time we go camping. All right, last but certainly not least, cooking. Now, this is one of my favorite parts about going camping is something about cooking outside and cooking for other people that I love. There's a couple different tools that I've learned that are really effective when you're going out camping and you're cooking. When I first really got into camping, I thought I had to have a 2-burner stove. You'll see these are really popular. This is a GSI Outdoors, I think. But Coleman makes them. Like this is definitely pretty popular. And all it is, it hooks up to a propane. You got 2 burners here. And I would say that this works great for what it is, right? You can bring a pot, you can bring a pan. Like this is basically taking your home setup and trying to mimic it in the outdoors. We don't we can take these on trips sometimes, but a lot of times I found that it's a lot easier, especially going weekend camping, to do more of these other 2 solutions over here. And so I'll kind of talk about this. This is a $15 Amazon backpacking stove that I found. I've had this since college, so 10 plus years, and it still works. It fits in that tiny little orange container. Basically, it just folds out like this, and you can pop out these little I don't really know what they're called. They basically hold the pan more steady. And this just screws onto this bottle like this, and then you can adjust it. And I use that for boiling water. Works great. It's a lot cheaper than a Jetboil for sure. And I've also cooked stuff on it. I wouldn't use a very big pan or a very big pot on it just because of the stability of it. But you could also look for a similar backpacking stove that maybe, the base is a little bit bigger, so you can use those bigger pans and pots, but it does a great job for boiling water, which is the main thing I use it for. So I use that to make coffee and things like that. And then the main thing I use when I go camping is this Blackstone. So this is a 22-inch by 17-inch Blackstone. It is definitely heavy. Definitely not taking this backpacking, but as far as car camping, I feel like this is the ultimate solution because you can cook directly on it. You make sure it's clean before you go camping, and obviously you want to clean it up kind of as the weekend progresses and everything, but it just takes a lot of the work out of doing dishes. You kind of scrape off all your food. You get it real hot, you put some water on there to sanitize it, you're good to go. And I just feel like that's a lot easier than trying to wash out a pot, wash out a pan, with, maybe a camping sink or things like that. Another thing that you can do with this is if you need to cook something on a pot or a pan, we can put the pot or the pan directly on the cast iron, and it'll heat it up and it'll cook on it just fine. And so this kind of does everything this does, but we can also cook directly on this. And so I think that this is kind of one of those perfect solutions. Another thing that I've looked at is Blackstone makes a Venture griddle. It is a lot smaller than this. It's a lot narrower than this, and it doesn't weigh as much. But you get a good amount of cooking service. It basically takes a portion of it, and that you still have the griddle that you can cook on, and then you have one isolated burner. So I've looked at that. The only bad thing is I found out that griddle is not cast iron. It's more of like a silicone non-stick thing, so it's probably not gonna last as long, and it'll probably be easy to clean at first, but then after a while it'll get harder to clean. Now, I did make a YouTube video of everything that I include in my camp kitchen box, and so if you want to see some other things that I use to whenever I go camping, as far as like cooking food and making sure that I got everything that I need, you can watch that video. I'll link it somewhere on the screen. I appreciate you checking out the video, and if you watch all the way to the end, really appreciate that. I hope you got something out of this. I'm really trying to create content that is educating but also fun, and my goal is to inspire more people to get outdoors and to go camping. If you're interested in learning more about the outdoors and outdoor adventures, check out our school community. I'll post the link in the bio and in the description. There's a lot of people joining. We're right at 100 members, which is really exciting. And we talk about all things other than like just camping. We talk about hiking, backpacking. We talk about outdoor sports. We talk about survival, preparedness, all that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, definitely check it out, and we'll see you on the next one.